Good morning, PTN Ice Daily Show. This is Alan Fredendahl. For those who don't know me, I'm the COO of the Institute of Clinical Excellence. So part of my job is managing and operating all of the different stuff that we have going on. And I want to take a break this time from showing you guys apps and software to help you stay more productive and talk a little bit more theoretical. So today I'm going to talk about extreme ownership. It's a leadership concept that has come out in the past few years. You may or may not have heard of it. It started with this book, which I realize that some of you may see reversed, called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win, by two Navy SEAL officers, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. So you may have heard of Jocko. He's got a podcast. He has another book that just came out a few weeks ago called the Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. And so he's really big on a leadership style called extreme ownership, and kind of enforcing self-discipline in your leadership style to kind of take ownership of the situation and personal responsibility for leadership, kind of understanding that is the owner or manager of a company or a clinic or an organization, that because you're in that position, any responsibility for any problems or issues ultimately falls to you, no matter who else you put in place underneath you. So I'm a huge fan of Jocko. He has a podcast called the Jocko Podcast, where once a week he either has another person on, usually a military leader, or they cover a book on leadership over the course of about 2 hours. And they really just hammer on how to get better at being a leader. Jocko was enlisted Navy SEAL for 8 years, and then instead of getting out at the end of his contract, he got a commission and went back into the SEALs as an officer for 12 more years before retiring. He was in the same unit in Iraq as Chris Kyle, who you guys may know from American Sniper. So really great human in general, really great American. Love everything he puts out with leadership-wise. So today I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into what extreme ownership is and how you can use it to better your leadership style, whether you are just in charge of your own practice style as a staff PT, or whether you're running a clinic or running your own company or running your own organization, how you can use it to become a better leader. So when we talk about extreme ownership, what is it? The base definition is taking ownership of a situation, task, mission, whatever it may be, and as the responsibility of being in charge of that task, mission, or situation or organization, that really no blaming or excuses are acceptable. Kind of when you accept responsibility for taking over a project or a job, that you're saying, I'm the leader. I've agreed to undertake whatever it is we're doing. If this is my clinic, this is my patient, from small to big, I've agreed to do this, and because I've agreed to do this, I'm solely responsible for the outcome and any problems that occur, no matter how many people get between me and accomplishing the mission. And part of that is when problems do come up, and they will come up because that's part of being a human and working with humans, saying, I recognize that we have a problem. I'm going to accept that there's a problem here. I'm going to accept responsibility that this problem occurred because of things I have or have not done. And with that comes not just accepting blame and moving on, and that can kind of lead to being a really mopey, sad sap kind of person, saying like, oh, I messed up again, darn it. But saying, look, I messed up. Here's what I've already done, or here's what I'm going to do to fix the situation right now, and here are the things I've already put into place or I'm going to put into place to ensure that this mistake or a similar mistake to it does not happen ever again. And so the kind of the core principle is that you need to always check your ego and never deflect responsibility. You have to learn that you can't blame other people, because even as a leader of people, When you're in charge of people as a manager, even though you're in charge of them, you have to accept and recognize that you can't control them. You can't control their actions or what they do ultimately. We think we can. We think we can change people and control them, but we can't. We can try really hard, and we can put people in position underneath us who are very similar to us, and really reduce the amount of issues and problems that arise because of that. But ultimately, we can't change them or manipulate them, even though often we think we can. At the end of the day, the only person we are in 100% control of is ourselves. The only actions we are 100% in control of are our own actions. And it's natural to have excuses, and to try to blame others for mistakes. It's a completely natural reaction. That's our little chimpanzee brain, a couple 100,000 years of evolution hiding in our brain. It's survival to try and deflect responsibility onto others, because that's how you survive in a tribal life, in a tribal mindset. It's a way to de-escalate a situation. And reacting to conflict with more conflict is also another survival mechanism. And when people are in your face, maybe a patient is upset, or something, the clinic didn't get open on time and someone's upset, or someone's not upset with the service provided and they're raising their voice. The natural reaction there too is to also respond to violence with violence, respond to conflict with conflict. And again, we think we can control people and change their actions, but the only person we can ultimately control is ourselves. So in the majority of time, in majority of situations, the correct response is always to de-escalate a situation by recognizing that the only actions we can 100% control are our own. So de-escalation of a situation, recognizing and accepting a problem, and then offering a solution, making a solution, and then thinking about how to implement strategies to avoid a similar problem is kind of how the flow of extreme ownership goes. The best way to solve a problem is almost always for you to take action, for you to do something. And that's kind of, people might say, well, that's not fair. If it's something someone else did, I shouldn't have to take responsibility for it. But again, that's kind of against the core principle of this whole leadership style, which is that ultimately you're in charge. And ultimately the best way to change a situation is for you to take actions and not try and change others or deflect responsibility onto them. And it's hard, right? Leadership is really hard. People think people are leaders or they aren't. It's something you're born with or you're not. But really, when you get down to it, leadership is not some natural talent. It's a skill. It's a technique. It's something like anything else we do in or out of the clinic that needs reps. We have to work at it. We have to practice. And sometimes that means failing to kind of see where the gaps in our leadership ability and style and knowledge are in order to get better at it. And so you might be thinking, well, this sounds like a lot of individualism. What about, in a clinic, in my clinic, we work as a team. In my whatever, we work as a team. And again, we have to fall back on, while you can set people up for success on your team and rely on them, sometimes rely on them 100%. The only person and actions, again, that we can control are our own. So it's not the team, it's not your employees that come to your house at 4 a.m. and wake you up. They're not there the night before helping you pack your gym bag or cooking your lunch for the next day, right? That's all on you. All of the planning and kind of preventive nature of being a leader is on the leader. Whether or not that pans out the next day in practice is, kind of anybody's guess. But in the Army, we had a saying, prior planning prevents poor performance, P5. So the more planning you do as an individual, as the leader, the better the situation is going to go, because you're trying to iron out and see any possible poor outcomes that could possibly occur. And by planning a lot, by, again, going back to accepting that the situation is 100% up to you no matter what happens, and planning for it, you can really work out a lot of the kinks beforehand so that any problems that do arise are going to be minor and hopefully can be handled by your team if you happen to not be there. So prior planning prevents poor performance. So let's talk about a few real-world examples where I found myself employing this over the past couple of weeks. So the first was Monday morning. So I'm the new guy, so I have the crappy schedule at the clinic, right? So I see people super early, super late. Monday morning, 7 a.m. eval. Got there 15 minutes early. Clinic was dark. Opened it up. New patient, didn't have any information on him. And our admin gal wasn't there, and time's getting closer. She's not there. 7 o'clock hits. She's still not there. I don't know what to do to get this guy's paperwork. I don't know what kind of forms I have to fill out and stuff before we can do the eval. And so, finally she shows up about 5 minutes late, and it was, I could tell the patient was, kind of thinking, what kind of place is this where we get started 5 minutes late? And that would have been a situation where I would have been justified, thinking with my chimpanzee brain to escalate the situation and, maybe yell at the admin or say, why are you late? You are messing up this interaction with this patient. He's a new patient, never been here before, and his first impression is that we're late to work and we don't know what we're doing. And again, that's not the correct way to do it. Would I have been justified? Yes. Would it have done anything to accomplish the mission? No. The mission is that we see the patient on time and give them a high quality experience and impression of the clinic, and escalating that situation would have done nothing to accomplish that. And ultimately, if I would have done that, it probably would have destroyed any therapeutic alliance I had hoped to gain with that patient by coming off as, probably a mean and rude person, even though some of you might be thinking, well, Alan, you were completely justified, right? She messed up that eval for you, and you didn't even get started yet. But again, the only person that can be responsible to is myself. So what I learned from that is that I need to take some time and go through all of the new patient intake, so I know all the insurance forms and stuff to fill out, so that if that ever happens again, I know what to do and I don't have to wait on having the admin there. And furthermore, as soon as she walked in the door, she had the oh shit look on her face, like she forgot that we had a new patient and that she was late. And so kind of intrinsically, she already learned from that situation, and me escalating it would have added nothing to it. Another example is at the gym I go to. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday I go to CrossFit, but Tuesday, Thursday, and on the weekends I go to an Anytime Fitness near my house, and it's really small. They only have 2 showers, and the time of day I go there's a couple other folks there, and there's a guy there, and he always seems to get there the same time as me and finish his routine the same time as me, and we kind of always butt heads going and trying to grab one of the showers. And so, in that situation, what actions can I take as an individual to de-escalate the situation in order to accomplish the mission, which is, I need to take a shower in time and get to work. I could tell him, and he happens to be a person that takes like 25 minutes in the shower. So am I justified in telling him to hurry up, that he's kind of hogging the shower and he's making other people late to work? Yeah, probably. Would that do anything to get me in the shower faster? No. So what's the situation? What actions can I take there to get the mission done, which is to get in and out of the shower in a reasonable amount of time? And the answer is just to wake up 15 minutes earlier, right? Slightly alter my routine so that we're offset, and that by the time I finish, I can get in the shower and get out before he finishes, right? Completely de-escalate the situation. Everybody wins. A third example I'll share is the other day I walked in to do an eval, and the room hadn't been cleaned after the last time there was an eval in the exam room. So again, whose responsibility is it to keep that clean? Not mine, not really. That's someone else is getting paid to do that. We have a tech for that. But would having him come over and clean it in front of me, or yelling at him that he didn't do his job, or even if he's not there, calling him and making him come back in and clean it, would any of that have accomplished the mission, which is having the patient come in and have an eval in the exam room? No. It's, ultimately my responsibility to ensure that when I take a patient to the exam room, it's ready to roll. So what's the easiest way to do that? Just clean it myself, right? And learn next time to check 5 minutes earlier to make sure it's all clean and ready to go. So in all those situations, the correct response and the way to accomplish the mission was to de-escalate the situation, do a really small minor thing myself, and then learn from the problem of what I need to do in the future so that those mistakes don't happen again. And kind of with that last example, the biggest way you can make people become better leaders and to also start to take ownership of stuff is to actually give them ownership. Specifically take a tech and say, hey, listen, part of your job is making sure that the exam room is clean within 5 minutes of one of the therapists walking out. Here's this checklist. This is your job now. And you'd be surprised at how much people love that. How much we don't give ownership and leadership responsibilities to people that we expect to be leaders. When you give somebody ownership, when you make them responsible for something, they respond incredibly well. I had an issue last week with supplies not being ordered. We ran out and found out that we don't really have a system for that. We kind of just use electrodes and tape and stuff, and when you go to grab some and find out it's gone, that's when we order more. So I designed a checklist and gave it to my tech and said, hey, listen, this is your job now. When you're bored, when it's slow, especially, that first half hour in the clinic when people are starting to kind of just roll in, or that last half hour where it's kind of empty, take this checklist, go through these 20 different things, check for these supplies, check that they're there, and if it looks like they're low or there's none left, then, check this box, put it on my desk so I can order it. And man, he does that like 10 times a day now. He loves that checklist. He's in charge of something. He feels personally responsible for something, and he runs through it all the time now. And by giving him ownership of something, no matter how small, he's now feels like he's part of the team. He feels personally responsible for checking that list, and he checks the hell out of it, right? So if you want people to be better leaders, you kind of have to give up a little bit of the responsibility and maybe even the title of something and give it to somebody beneath you, because that's the ultimate way that we can make better leaders. And if you find, in your clinic, in your organization, on your team, that there are just those people who don't seem to be getting it, that's okay. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. Something I learned from Jeff Moore is a phrase, don't motivate people, help motivated people. So if it seems like you're constantly dragging somebody along to do something, then it's probably not a good fit, and that's okay, because there's somebody out there who is a really good fit for your team, who's gonna, check the supply list 10 times an hour for 10 hours, right? So find those people, give them some ownership, and you'll be surprised at how much better your organization runs. And so in conclusion, extreme ownership, accept personal responsibility for everything that happens, no matter how small, even if it's that's not my job. It ultimately is, if you're accepting ownership and leadership of a team or organization or project, everything that happens is your responsibility. So you have to take ownership for it, even if it means doing some stuff yourself, coming in a little bit earlier, staying a little bit later. That's kind of part of the job of being a leader. When you're thinking of situations that arise where problems occur, think, what could I do right now to change the situation? And it's almost always de-escalate the situation and take a really small action yourself to fix the problem. And again, something I've learned from Jeff Moore is, when considering doing something or responding to a problem, he likes to say, would doing this this way better advance the profession of physical therapy? And of course, when you put stuff in that context, the answer is almost always no. Um, Almost always a response or action that I'm about to take is not the best way to advance the profession of physical therapy, and that's really helped me over the past couple years check myself with taking actions and responding to problems more appropriately. And the last thing is what we just talked about. If you want people to become better leaders and managers under you, you have to actually give them a little bit of ownership and ensure that they understand that whatever task or team you're handing over to them, they are in charge of it and they are the owner of it, and that's how you can get people who are underneath you in kind of the chain of command to become better owners and also practice extreme ownership. And it's not perfect. Everyone's human. We are humans, and we work with humans every day, so it's never perfect. But leadership is a skill and a technique, so the more you practice it, even the more you fail at it, the better you'll be at it. So check out those books, Extreme Ownership and Discipline Equals Freedom. I really like them. Jocko has a podcast that's free once a week. That's all he talks about is kind of this extreme ownership mindset. And then he's big on Instagram and showing you up by being at the gym at 4 a.m. every day. He'll really motivate you to get moving every morning. So that's it for this episode. We have some courses coming up. Next weekend we'll be in Maryland at Recharge. I'm going to that one, so I'll see a lot of you there for cervical spine management. And then we're taking a break for a couple weeks for the holidays, and we'll kick off the new year again the first weekend of January with lumbar management in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, with Jeff, and the TA for that will be Dan Dallatore, a really great guy. And then the Monday after that weekend, we have 2 online courses starting: Monitored Management of the Older Adult, and the 5th cohort of APHPT, the APHPT certification. So the Recharge course is almost full. I think there's 2 spots left, but the other ones still have plenty of spots. So come on and see us. Have a great day. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I'll talk about some more travel tips and hacks for the weekend before Christmas. Have a great day. See you guys next time.